let's start, I guess, just at the point at which I met you, right? Because that actually was one of the first steps in actually making a decided change in my life.
Yeah.
So at the time when we had the amazing good fortune of working together,
Yeah.
And I do have to say, working with you really did change my life in many ways, because it was one of the first times that I met somebody who could take me to task the way I take people to task. I think it was, really good for us. And, we as Aries, we do like to be in the thick and the weeds of everything and building. Yeah. So it was a great opportunity. So around 20, let's say 14 or a little bit before that, I found myself in what looked like the perfect marriage with a perfect life, but really just nothing was perfect at all.
Right.
And I knew it was time to make, it was like, if I didn't make some changes then, I could just be one of these people who kept on that hamster wheel and waiting for the universe to make change for me. And unfortunately, through the untimely death of my mother, I realized that was a pivotal moment for me, because I realized that life is really fleeting, nothing is guaranteed, and that if you don't take control of your own life, even though there is obviously God in your life, hopefully, and there's some predetermined fate for you, but if you're paying attention and living consciously, you got to make the most of each day. So basically everything started to explode shortly after my mother's death in 2010. I had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and I was 6 months pregnant with my youngest.
Oh.
And my mother had suffered with sickle cell disease, or, our whole lives, obviously. And so what happens with that, Shar, is as a family, I think we had all fantasized about what her death would look like. In other words, when you have somebody who's chronically ill, you know that they're probably not going to make it to meet my grandchildren, right? There's certain things that probably won't happen. But you also imagine these, you watch enough Hallmark movies and you imagine this slow death. You understand, you believe there's going to be these times to have conversations and reminisce and talk, and you'll have time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as someone told me shortly after my mother died, that people unfortunately die daily, regardless of if they're suffering with sickle cell cancer or whatever. They still might get hit by a car. They might, something terrible could still happen. And so that unfortunately is what happened in my family. Yeah. We thought that, my mother was doing relatively well. She was 60. She'd lived a relatively long life with sickle cell disease. She was 60 years old, and then had a pulmonary embolism and died.
Wow.
At the same time, I was already in this phase of self-exploration and trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? Because while everything looks good and my children were amazing, there was something not settled with my life.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was born in what was really just a failing marriage. And my ex-husband and I were doing our best, I think, to just, because it looked so good, to just try and keep up.
Right.
Energy that we were given, right? Because it's hard not to, right? In full disclosure, my ex-husband is a supermodel and one of the most people in the world, right? And so it's like I always said, I was married to Halle Berry. And unless you are married to someone like that, right, you don't actually know what that's like.
Right.
And I'm not saying we should give Halle Berry or my ex-husband sympathy for their extraordinary looks.
Right.
I'm saying that there is stuff that comes with that.
Yeah.
And so what I always wanted to do, not coming from a family of divorce, not understanding what divorce looked like, I was like, okay, let me take control over what I know I can control, which is my career.
Yeah.
And my children.